A small blue fruit you can hold 10 of in the palm of your hand might be quietly changing what's happening inside your arteries, your brain, and even your blood sugar, starting from the very first handful. Doctors have been studying this fruit for decades, and what they found is not hype. It's measurable. So what actually happens inside your body if you start eating blueberries every single day? Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back. If you've ever stood in the grocery store looking at a little plastic clamshell of blueberries and wondered, are these actually worth it, or is this just marketing? This video is for you. Here's why this topic matters right now. Chronic conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and age-related memory decline are some of the biggest health challenges people face as they get older, and a huge amount of research suggests that small, consistent dietary habits can meaningfully shift your long-term risk. Blueberries happen to be one of the most studied fruits in nutrition science, not because they're exotic or expensive, but because they're absolutely loaded with a specific group of plant compounds called anthocyanins, which are responsible for that deep blue-purple color. In this video, we're going to walk through exactly what the science says happens when blueberries become a daily habit, the real evidence-backed benefits, how they affect different systems in your body in plain English, the potential downsides and who should be careful, and how much you'd realistically want to eat to see benefits. No exaggeration, no miracle cure claims, just what the research actually supports. Let's start with what makes this little berry so interesting in the first place. Before we get into the effects, it helps to understand what you're actually consuming. According to nutrition data cited by Mayo Clinic, a 1-cup serving of blueberries contains around 80 calories, roughly 4 grams of fiber, and about 25% of your daily recommended vitamin C, all while being made up mostly of water. That combination is part of why blueberries have such a strong reputation. You're getting fiber, vitamins, and a dense concentration of antioxidant plant compounds without a big calorie cost. The real star of the show, though, is that anthocyanin content. Mayo Clinic dietitians have pointed out that blueberries contain roughly 24 different types of anthocyanins, which is unusually high compared to many other berries that might only have 2 or 3. These compounds are polyphenols, plant chemicals with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and a growing body of research from institutions like Harvard and peer-reviewed journals has linked regular anthocyanin intake to a range of potential health benefits. With that foundation in mind, let's go system by system and talk about what actually changes in your body. Let's start with your cardiovascular system, because this is where some of the strongest evidence exists. Harvard Health has reported on research showing that the anthocyanins in blueberries appear to improve the function of endothelial cells. These are the cells that line the inside of your blood vessels and play a major role in regulating blood flow. When those cells function better, your blood vessels tend to relax and dilate more efficiently, which can support healthier blood pressure over time. A widely cited scientific review published on blueberries and anthocyanins noted that in several long-term population studies, people with higher anthocyanin intake had somewhere around an 8 to 10% lower risk of developing hypertension compared to those with lower intake. That same body of research has also connected higher intake of blueberries and other anthocyanin-rich berries to a meaningfully lower rate of heart attacks in some large observational studies, even after accounting for other known risk factors. Now, here's the important nuance. A lot of this evidence comes from what's called observational research, meaning scientists tracked large groups of people over time and looked at patterns between diet and health outcomes rather than proving direct cause and effect in a controlled trial. Observational evidence is valuable and consistent, but it's a different tier of proof than a randomized controlled trial. That said, smaller clinical trials measuring blood pressure and blood vessel function directly have found supportive results too, which strengthens the overall picture. In plain English, eating blueberries regularly is associated with better blood vessel function and lower cardiovascular risk, and there's a plausible, well-studied mechanism to explain why. This next one is probably the benefit people get most excited about: the brain connection. One of the most well-known studies here comes from Harvard researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital, using data from the long-running Nurses' Health Study, which followed more than 16,000 women over the age of 70. The researchers found that women who ate 2 or more servings of blueberries and strawberries per week experienced measurably slower rates of memory decline. The effect was described as being roughly equivalent to delaying cognitive aging by about 2.5 years. The proposed reason is that flavonoids, including the anthocyanins in blueberries, are able to cross the blood-brain barrier and reach the areas of the brain involved in learning and memory, where they may help reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. It's worth being clear-eyed here, though. The study authors themselves noted that while they controlled for other lifestyle factors, they couldn't completely rule out that people who eat more berries might also have other healthy habits, like exercising more, that contribute to the outcome. This is a well-designed, large-scale observational study, but it's still not the same as isolating blueberries as the sole cause. More recent systematic reviews of smaller clinical trials have looked specifically at blueberries and cognitive performance in older adults. And while some show promising improvements in memory tasks, researchers generally agree that more controlled human trials are still needed to fully confirm the effect size. So the honest takeaway is that the brain health connection is one of the more exciting and well-supported areas of blueberry research, but it should be described as promising and consistent, not proven beyond doubt. Next, let's talk about blood sugar, which matters to a huge number of people trying to manage or prevent type 2 diabetes. Despite tasting sweet, blueberries have what's called a relatively low glycemic impact for a fruit, largely because of their fiber content, which slows down how quickly sugar enters your bloodstream. Research reviewed in nutrition science literature has associated regular blueberry and anthocyanin consumption with improved insulin sensitivity and better glucoregulatory function, meaning your body may become more efficient at managing blood sugar levels over time. Large cohort studies have also linked higher intake of blueberries specifically to a lower long-term risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Again, most of this comes from population level and observational data rather than large randomized trials specifically isolating blueberries. But because the fiber and low sugar impact story is well understood physiologically, and because the anthocyanin findings are consistent across multiple studies, this is considered a reasonably strong area of evidence, just one that would benefit from more direct clinical confirmation. Here's a benefit that doesn't get talked about as much: your gut microbiome. Fiber is the obvious piece here. That 4 grams per cup helps support regular digestion and feeds the beneficial bacteria living in your gut. But there's a more interesting layer too. Research has shown that when you eat blueberries, your gut bacteria actually break down and metabolize the anthocyanins into smaller compounds. And some researchers believe this interaction between blueberry polyphenols and your gut microflora may be part of what drives some of the broader health benefits we've already talked about, including effects on inflammation. This is a newer and still developing area of research compared to the cardiovascular and cognitive data. So think of it as an emerging piece of the puzzle rather than a fully settled conclusion. Let's talk about inflammation and oxidative stress, because these two processes are connected to a huge number of chronic diseases and to visible signs of aging. Antioxidants work by helping neutralize unstable molecules in your body called free radicals, which can damage cells over time when they build up. Blueberries are consistently ranked among the fruits with the highest antioxidant capacity, largely thanks to that dense anthocyanin content. Mayo Clinic has noted that this antioxidant activity may help reduce inflammation and support immune function, and some research has explored potential protective effects against certain types of cellular damage linked to cancer risk. Though it's important to say clearly, this does not mean blueberries prevent or cure cancer. The research here is early stage and mostly based on laboratory and animal studies, with human evidence still developing. When it comes to skin specifically, there isn't strong direct clinical evidence that eating blueberries visibly changes your skin's appearance, but supporting your body's overall antioxidant and anti-inflammatory status is generally considered part of a foundation for healthy aging. If you're watching your weight, blueberries have a few things going for them. Mayo Clinic has pointed out that because blueberries are mostly water and relatively low in calories for their volume, they can help you feel satisfied without a large calorie cost, which is genuinely useful if you're replacing a more calorie-dense snack with a bowl of berries. The fiber content also contributes to satiety, meaning it can help you feel fuller for longer after eating. This isn't a burn fat claim. It's simply that blueberries can be a smart substitution within an overall balanced diet, especially when swapped in for lower fiber, higher sugar snacks. One more area worth a quick mention: your eyes. Anthocyanins and other antioxidant compounds found in blueberries have been studied for their potential role in supporting eye health and protecting against age-related vision changes, since oxidative stress is believed to play a role in conditions like macular degeneration. The evidence here is still considered preliminary compared to the cardiovascular and cognitive research, so we'll flag it as an area to watch rather than a settled benefit. Now, let's be fair and balanced, because no food is without any considerations at all. First, for most healthy people, blueberries are considered very safe and well tolerated, but there are few groups and situations worth knowing about. If you eat a very large quantity of any high-fiber fruit in one sitting, you may experience digestive discomfort, bloating, gas, or an upset stomach, simply because your gut isn't used to that much fiber at once. This is a general fiber-related effect, not something unique to blueberries, and it typically resolves as your body adjusts, or if you moderate your portion. Second, if you're taking blood-thinning medication like warfarin, it's worth knowing that blueberries do contain a modest amount of vitamin K, a nutrient that plays a role in blood clotting. This isn't a reason to avoid blueberries, but people on this type of medication are generally advised by their doctors to keep their vitamin K intake consistent day to day, so it's worth mentioning to your physician or pharmacist if you're planning to make blueberries a daily habit. Third, true allergies to blueberries are considered rare, but they do exist. If you notice itching, swelling, or any unusual reaction after eating them, stop and consult a doctor. Fourth, if you have kidney issues or a history of kidney stones related to oxalates, it's worth knowing that blueberries do contain oxalates, though at more moderate levels than some other foods. If this applies to you, it's best to talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian about how blueberries fit into your specific dietary needs. And finally, if you're buying conventionally grown blueberries, they've sometimes appeared on lists of produce with detectable pesticide residue, so washing them thoroughly, or choosing organic if that matters to you, is a reasonable, low-effort precaution. The bottom line here is that for the average healthy adult, Blueberries are considered one of the safer, gentler foods you can add to your daily diet. The cautions above are mostly relevant to specific medical situations, not the general population. So what does the evidence actually support as a reasonable daily amount? Mayo Clinic dietitians have pointed to about a half cup as a standard serving size. Interestingly, some of the research on disease risk reduction has found associations even with more modest amounts. Some studies suggest that even around 1/3 of a cup daily is linked to measurable benefits. Meanwhile, the Harvard Memory Study found benefits at around 2 or more servings per week, not necessarily every single day. What this tells us is that you don't need to eat an enormous bowl of blueberries daily to potentially benefit. Consistency seems to matter more than quantity. A reasonable, evidence-aligned target for most healthy adults would be somewhere in the range of half a cup to 1 cup per day, or a few times a week if daily isn't realistic for you. Fresh or frozen, both count. Frozen blueberries retain most of their nutritional value and are often more affordable and available year-round, so don't feel like fresh is required to get the benefits. So let's bring this all together. When you make blueberries a regular part of your routine, here's the honest, evidence-based picture. You're looking at a food that's strongly associated with better blood vessel function and lower cardiovascular risk, promising and fairly consistent links to slower memory decline, reasonably solid connections to improved blood sugar regulation, supportive effects on gut bacteria and digestion, and a meaningful dose of antioxidants that help your body manage inflammation and oxidative stress. It's not a miracle food, and no single ingredient can outweigh an otherwise poor diet or sedentary lifestyle. But as one small, consistent habit within a balanced approach to eating, blueberries have more scientific support behind them than almost any other fruit you could choose. At the end of the day, the science on blueberries is about as encouraging as nutrition research gets. Strong observational data, a plausible biological mechanism, and decades of research from institutions like Harvard, Mayo Clinic, and peer-reviewed journals all pointing in a similar direction. Just remember, food alone isn't a substitute for medical care. So if you have a specific health condition, it's always worth checking with your doctor about how blueberries or any dietary change fits into your individual situation. If you found this breakdown useful, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this kind of evidence-based content reach more people instead of the exaggerated health myths that are unfortunately everywhere online. Subscribe if you want more videos like this one, breaking down what the actual research says about the foods you eat every day. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you already eat blueberries regularly, or is this the video that convinces you to start? Let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next one.